Alright, so now this is actually not really our class. That's something else I'll get to in a second. But here is our course. And it's going to be a little weird for me because the Cbfn, I'm always used to DFS coming after CSCI. And so hopefully I don't mess too much stuff up. I have the CSCI 315 and the Cbfn 315, so hopefully I don't get too confused here. Now, since this course is all online, right, we don't meet physically. Our communication, we can meet physically if you want, but it'll be pretty much through here. We'll do a weekly kind of get together, powwow, if you will, and then we'll see what we need to do. And just like any of the other courses, everything's up here, the same stuff. There's a syllabus, there's a bio, you can look at the schedule of what you can expect for the class. There's all this great resources here. And we have a little folder called files. I'll probably put some stuff up there maybe. And then the participation quiz actually doesn't even matter because nothing's locked. So you don't even have to take that. Now I do have this set up in modules because what I didn't want to do is have people working ahead, because if you start to work ahead, you really are going to get what will happen is the conversations on Friday will devolve. They will turn into people asking questions about stuff that other people haven't even looked at yet, and it'll get really confusing really fast. So, what do we have to do with the class? You're going to see that it's pretty much going to be rinse and repeat every module as far as what we're doing, at least for the first part. And so the first part is, this is one of those classes where you have to do a little writing, and you're going to do some writing on a discussion forum. So the first one is standards organization. So you'll be looking up like IANA or whatever, if you want to break that up to IPN, whatever standards organizations that manage something, that's fine. You can look at that because hopefully within one of these chapters there's some discussion about that at some level, and there is. And at any rate, so you want to read those chapters and look at that. I'll be honest, the book is like 1,000 pages. I sent out, or I made a post about it. It's available online, so you don't have to buy it. And then after you go through those chapters, there's a couple of important pieces that I put on these homework question assignments. So I have to look here. I'm pretty sure I set these up, yeah. So the attempts are 2. So you have 2 attempts at it. Do this, which is go through, and I don't want to say don't read the chapters. I mean, you're certainly more than welcome to, but I will have videos of content stressing and highlighting the important parts of the chapter that you should know. And in those videos, I will tell you every single thing that shows up on these assessments. So there's 10 questions. Within those content videos are the answers. So what you want to do is, I would suggest, you can approach this however you want, but I would suggest watch those videos over the content that talk about the important topics, like, oh yeah, I can't even think off the top of my head what the first ones are. But, there's these, protocols, or the TCP/IP stack, and, it's broken into, 2 different protocols. One's TCP, transmission control protocol, and the other one's, internet protocol. And, they have numbers associated with them, and there's just multitudes of information in those content videos, as you can imagine. Watch those first, then go read the book if you want or need to, or at least read around the area that I highlight in the book, and then come and take this quiz. Assess what you know. If you end up with a 50%, well, then you probably aren't really prepared, and you probably should go back over, if you hadn't, the book, right, or the video, or whatever, and then take it again, okay? That's a good strategy. Again, that's going to be a large component of the class. Assess what you know. I made a reference to these content videos. I'll be honest, it's going to be the same stuff that's up here. So what I'll end up doing is, for Module 1, you're going to see that you'll have access to all the different videos. Now, what the thing is that you'll notice that some of these might be relevant to projects and things that that time that I made the video to that class. So you'll just have to kind of filter through that to find it. So let's take an example here. So you can see actually I made this in 18. Okay, so we'll just look at this as an example here, because the book hasn't been updated in 2 years. So I'm talking about VirtualBox here, and resource allocation. This is a good topic because you never want to over provision what resources you have for your virtual machines, right? I can see up here, it's downloads Oracle VirtualBox. So I'm going through and talking about, hey, you have this much free. This is really standby, so you have a lot of memory to work and play around with. But there's some memory things here like Microsoft Edge that takes up, as you can see, a considerable amount of memory. That is all in this video, so watch it. And then I'm sure at some point here I'm talking about installing virtual machines, which again shouldn't come till later, after we talk about some other stuff. So some of this you already may know, and maybe depending on what class you're in, like if you're in 205 with me, like you already did all this stuff. But I just put it there for the case where people don't have me in that course. Okay. Well, this probably was a bad example because I'm going to talk about that a little bit. You can either do this, do it on your own, or the other option is you remote into the lab, run your virtual machines on the lab computers, or a third option is you connect into the infrastructure sitting in the workroom in the back there and do everything. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. And again, like I said, this probably was not a good video to pop up here. But because what should happen is in these videos, primarily you want to use them for content. Like here, I'm talking about, okay, chapter 6, the OSI, reference model and the different layers, and I'm talking about the protocols that exist in each one of the layers. Like that's the good stuff to get from here. And then I should, maybe make sure, like let me look back at another one, like one that's a little bit more, I want to say introductory, but one that's a little bit more toward the content stuff. All right. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, so again, I should be highlighting some things here. Let's see where I am. You do, but they're software. So you play around with specifically routers. So yeah, we do all that stuff virtually. And even for example, let's say the 410 class for Cbfn 410. Yeah, we play around with physical switches, but in reality, we don't even touch them because it's good to get in there and plugging cables here and there and doing all that. But the truth is, the way that the reality is that we are trying to move, especially if you're a larger corporation, to like a software-defined data center, which is, everything is software because we have so much more control, flexibility, easy to fail over. There's so many benefits to virtualizing everything, including your network. And we can talk about that later, about like VMware's solution to a software-defined data center, which is NSX. And again, yeah, there is a certain goodness in getting there and playing around with physical components, but when you're talking about managing and maintaining them, 9 times out of 10, you're not really physically there. You're going to connecting, remotely and stuff. Right. Well, and maybe we could, again, we can have some discussions about that as we're going along. And, yeah, you can even, you know, yeah, there's so much information there. Yeah, and I don't want to say you may want to hold off on the cable monster until like at least the 410 class, but you end up don't taking that. You don't take it till like your junior year or something. Um, but at any rate, yeah. So looking back at this, again, you'll just use these videos for getting primarily the content out of it. Don't pay too much attention to what those students are doing in the class because that's what the intent of these weekly meetings are, is to see what you guys are doing and work through those problems, or see what you're doing and talk about that. So really just use these as content, and again, that content is used for these guys. All right, and then really the last thing, as far as like what you have to do for the class, like yeah, you create these. Well, it really leads into this, which is, yeah, we talk about you have some discussion forum, post some stuff, have some talk about whatever it might be. Like mod 2 is about protocols, so pick some protocols, talk about them. And then you'll have again some concept questions. What you'll start to see is that about more than halfway through the class, you'll start to see things called labs. And the labs are that's where you need to have some kind of infrastructure set up and running, so that way you can go through and do the labs. And again, like I said, this is a kind of a far off type thing because we have to figure out what is going to work best for you to do your labs, right? And like for example, like the midterm, you actually will have a midterm, and then the midterm, there'll be two components. There'll be the concept questions that you've seen before, and also there'll be the hands-on component, which is a lab component, right? Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I mean, kind of those three things, including tests and stuff, and then again, the final exam is really the same thing as the midterm. So you have concept questions, and then you have some hands-on component to do. Okay, now comes the cool part, because again, that's all fine and dandy. And I mean, you could go, take a course through Coursera and get that, which is some discussion with people about topics and then some concept questions. That last piece, right, is what is important to me, which is we can actually do something. So now, how do you want to do something? Well, here, I have a couple different options. For example, I could go through and you can go in and we'll do it. Remote into the lab, and so far I really only have 2 computers set up. So I'll do 11 here. Well, I think I was actually, no, you know what, hold up. Because I don't know if I ever even I didn't log out of this computer, it's just probably locked. So let me get into this one. Alright. Okay. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Yes. Why is my keyboard not working? Yes, Visio. Microsoft has a product called Visio, and it's for flow charts, network diagrams, and so on. And yes, you can use that, um, or you could use. You may have seen the commercial if you watch YouTube. Lucid Chart. Uh, so yeah, you can use those guys, and again, that comes later in the later in the class, if you will. Okay, so again, here is a computer that's sitting in Dana 29, and I can go in here and I can create all of my infrastructure really on this one system. Now, the way your infrastructure is going to work, and I could show you a diagram of that so you kind of have an idea of what to expect. Where would I put that? You, yeah, you can do it all through there. Um, but again, you don't have to. There's other options. Well, it's not a plugin, it's a login to the account of Chrome. Yeah. I could go over that. No, because you'll just log in with the account and it won't have you install anything on your computer. All you have to do is log into the Yeah, so as long as you log in with the account that I set up on the computer, you log in with that account, boom, you're good. You don't have to install anything. They- Actually, you don't. They changed it. Yeah, so don't install anything. Because like yeah, if you're like, oh, I need this, that means that this computer can be remotely controlled. You don't want to have your computer that you're connecting to this inside this lab with. You don't want your computer to be controlled. So don't do that because otherwise, if you do that, because other people will share the same account, somebody can connect to your computer. So you don't want to do that. Yeah. No. Yeah, you don't want to do that. Okay, and I was gonna open up this thing. I want to show you like what the infrastructure should look like. So let me do that. I gotta find it. Ugh. Let me go here. It's kind of okie dokie. There we are. I need this, and I need this, and oh my gosh, what happened here? Oh, there we go. So let me turn off my numlock. All right, and we want this. I think this will work. Okay, and make sure. Okay, I think this is it. Let me see. Um, oh, I need a picture. Picture page is picture page. I don't think this is it. Oh, you know what? I know what it is. I know what it is. It's not an assignment. It's a rubric, or it's a discussion forum. So let me find that. Okay. Okay. It will be, it has to be module 4 then. No? What the hell one is it? Yeah. Come on, man. It's right here. Okay, cool. Okay, yeah. All right, so here's a illustration from the book on what it is that you have to create, right? So you're gonna have at least 4 different routers: R1, R2, R3, R4. Now each one of these routers is going to be a software router. Specifically, it's a Linux distribution called pfSense. Well, the problem is that Netgate bought the company, they purchased them, so then now they're still trying to keep a freeware version of pfSense. And yeah, it looks a little bit more fancy. I'm actually using the older version. You can stay on that branch of update, and I can give you that ISO. And it defaults to red, whereas the new version by Netgate is defaults to like a blue. Yeah, so you're going to be running these. You're going to be running four routers, and you are going to have, because they're really lightweight. They don't take a lot of resources, so you can run four on the same system. Then what you're going to have is you're going to have a computer like dangling off of R4, and then probably a computer that you can maybe switch between networks that will be on R2. So you need like a client server model. So you need to at least have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 virtual machines running. But again, 4 of those are super lightweight. So what I also do then too is because, yeah, we can install Windows 10 here as the client computer, but you can think how much memory it's going to take to run that operating system. It's a lot of resources. Then if you're like, well, I want to use the latest and greatest, so I'm using Server 2019. Again, you don't have enough resources here in our lab here to do that, right? We don't have enough resources here. So what I suggest, you get the same effect, you get the same knowledge if you install Windows XP and Server 2003, or Windows XP as a client and Windows XP as a server. You can add in services in Windows XP that make it look like a server. You can put in an FTP server, HTTP server, or IIS, and what else? SMTP. You can put all that stuff on an XP client and make it like a server, and it'll respond to one and everything like that. And then that way you can keep things really lightweight. So again, it's up to you on how you want to do it. If you want to, okay, so that's on this computer. And then by all means, you can install VirtualBox and do it on your own system, completely fine. If you do that on your own system, though, I can't really help you out if you run into too many problems. You can do screen sharing and stuff, but then we kind of introduce a whole bunch of other problems. But 9 times out of 10, I can probably work through them and help you out. Mhm. Yeah, and we can do that, or we can just have a Teams meeting, and I can request control, and it's all authenticated. Because that's the one thing I don't like about TeamViewer is like, you know, you'll see in like let's say the 410 class, intrusion detection class, like you exploit that. That's how you create remote connections to other computers is well through VNC. So a little, it's similar, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, yeah. Go ahead and try it. Say request access, and I'll say yeah. Go ahead and say. And I don't know, like you said, I don't know if you're working on your computer or. So now I'm allowing Smith to control. So try and click around or something. Yep. Well, request access again then. Hold on. No, it would be the other way. I'm not going to be controlling yours. Um, Here. Yeah, try it here. Try it again. You don't mouse over the screen to get the buttons. The bar that come up. Well, it might be two. I was gonna say I haven't had a problem with like, well, I've had double monitors, two monitors before, but yeah, it should come up. Oh, here, Devin's has control. So here, let me do this. Let me cancel the control, and then I'm gonna give control to you. So now I'll try and move a mouse wherever you're joining through Teams. Like just try and move the mouse. This should work. Hmm. I don't know what the business is there. All right. Well, cool audio. Yeah, yeah. I've used it a couple times, and it's worked out all right. All right, and then yeah. So again, going back to wherever you want to run this infrastructure, like great. If you want to use the lab, great. If you want to use your own system, but just make sure you watch that one video that I'll post at some point. Probably should do it pretty soon. But I mean, if you looked at the homework assignment, honestly, stuff's not due until the 9th of September, so you have some time yet. Okay, so you could do those two things. Then the third option is this, and this is the cool thing, right? Which is user. You're a user. I hope that's a password. So I'd be hating to wait around for it if it wasn't. Alright, so for whatever reason, it looks like this restarted. This is like Windows 10, like thank you for restarting my computer type thing. I think it's probably going to open up everything that was open up and try and make it look like it didn't restart the computer. Yeah, see. Thanks, Windows, for your updates. I should have fixed that. Yeah, it didn't close normally. Big surprise. I wonder why. Thanks. What if I was working on something important there? Huh, well, that's funny. It didn't open up my tabs. That's pretty lame. Thanks. Well, again, it'll probably be like, do you want... No, it doesn't want me to restore. Okay, so... well, here's PFSense if you want to see that. Okay, yeah, there is an older one, but this one isn't so bad with whatchamacallit, the the thing. The thing is Netgate. Like this is still the community edition. At any rate, what I wanted to do was 172.20.0. Here's what I wanted us to do. This, and I don't know which one's which. All right. So what you would do is, you would have to be connected to the lab in some fashion to be able to do this, because the infrastructure sits in the lab. So you would still need a virtual machine to like be your what I call a jump box, really, to get into the network, and then from there you get into your infrastructure. Okay. Oh shoot, I think I messed up the password. Yeah, looks like it. Yeah, okay. Okay. Alright, so here's ESX Alpha, and you can see that, well, you can see this resources on here. So it's about 64 gigs, give or take. Memory, 12 CPUs, which really equate to, you can make a lot of these CPUs. And really what it comes down to is what is the capacity, right? You're talking like, yeah, 30 gigahertz. This is how much is being used. And I could delete a lot of this to free up some space. This is one of my servers. I have 3 of them, and this is the other one. You'll notice that it only has 32 gigs of memory. That's because on the third server, it's actually out of commission. It's because of the RAID controller card on it. I have to replace it, and so I was like, I'm not going to spend a couple $100 on it. Instead, I'm just going to take the memory out of it and put it in here, in the other one, and that'll work for me. Okay, so here's what you would be doing. You would be getting in here and setting up and learning about all this really awesome stuff. Because, you know, I'm definitely not the expert. I'm not certified. I probably should. It's it's like one of those things. Like, I mean, I could go get half certified in it. Like, I could probably pass some of the certifications for this stuff, not all of them, but I got a pretty good working knowledge of how this stuff works. And, you know, here again, you would just create your own networks. And when I mean by create your own networks, again, and I can give you, it would be TMI for this video, but, you know, it comes down to, we got to think about the physical NICs, right? The physical network, when you plug in an Ethernet cable, like start there, and then talk about these things about like virtual switches, right? And what are virtual switches? Well, just like the name says, they're not really real, they're software. And then what you have is port groups, which port groups are saying like, okay, this here is the same exact thing as this here. So let's say, I'll just make something real quick here. Bleep, bleep. And do not add. We don't need one right now. Yeah, whatever. We don't care. It's not for real. But what we're doing is, because otherwise you're going to have this stuff here, right? You have these network adapters, and I talk about all this stuff. But, you have these different things here. And so when we're talking about port groups, we're really talking about how do you identify what this physical adapter should look like? Should it be just something that performs network address translation? Should it be bridged? Would it appear to be a peer of the host? Is it internal, where it's something that you specify in name that is only used for virtual machines? The internal network is probably the closest thing to port groups. And then host only, so on and so forth. I didn't even know this didn't even exist. Cloud network, I don't even know what that is. I guess it's experimental. That sounds pretty cool, but at any rate, I talk about all this fun stuff. And the thing is, if you decide and you want to do this, which is connecting the infrastructure, set up all your infrastructure up here, you will have the option, or you can, unless there was like all 5 people wanted to do this, we'll probably have enough resources to go around, because I'm not really running a lot on these this semester. Last semester I certainly was. This semester not so much. So we have a lot of free resources. Now I did have it set up where I had vCenter up and running, but again, vCenter is such a resource hog. And then I had some problems with the network where I had to kind of dial it back, and in order to make it more usable, I actually took away some of the cool stuff. But at any rate, here's a good example of this infrastructure, this environment. If you walk over to the IT department here, this is what they do. Everything's virtualized. Everything runs on, a couple of servers, and there's a lot of mini computers running on there. That's just anywhere you go. Because it makes sense. It makes sense to have a couple of really beefy servers and do really, like, not even load balancing, but like allow, breaking up the resources. Allows you to manage it a lot more efficiently. There's all kinds of cool stuff with this. Anyway, so that would be it. That would be the thing to have you think about is, what do you want to do? Do you want to create an environment where you connect to a computer here, and you have your 6 virtual machines running on this computer? I don't know, either way, you almost have to, you have to, and that's why it's important to write it out. So when I have this here, and I'm like, one of the assignments is you have to draw out your infrastructure, because if you don't, forget about it. There's no way you can keep all this stuff in your head. So yeah, you have to draw it out. So you're going to draw it out first, really, before you create it, if that makes sense. So this is kind of getting ahead of the game, if you will. This doesn't pop up until what, Mod 5? So we're talking like more than halfway into the class. So we got a lot of little stuff, not little stuff, but a lot of stuff to talk about and do first. But I want us to start having these discussions and have you start creating your infrastructure, going through creating your virtual machines sooner than later. I don't want you to wait till the end. Um, yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's kind of the class as far as an overview. And I would really love to take these class times that we meet to talk about. I really hope people take different approaches. And what I mean by that, I hope some people decide that, yes, I want to connect into the lab and I want to run all my crap on the computers there. I also would love it if somebody else was like, yeah, I'm going to do all this on my own computer, and then you can share your screen in our meetings, and so we can see what it is you're doing. And then also, I would obviously love it if somebody was all in on the, this part here. Go over here. All in on this. Now, perfectly fine. For you here, good example. Let me see. This is this here is a really beefy server. This server does a lot of crap. Look at how much CPU utilization it's using. 406 megahertz. That's like not even. That's nothing. Yeah. So, look, yeah, look at this one. This DC. Look how much CPU it's using. 47 megahertz. Right. Yeah. So exactly. Yeah, and so you're not going to be, when you're talking about how much resources a CPU uses, the problem or the always the snafu or the issue, if you will, is memory. As far as all the compute resources, memory is the one that probably is the worst. And I don't want to say I could go off on a tangent on that, but because what happens is, I don't want to say think about it, but and you should have got this from one of the other classes, like the DFS 105, which was, when paging occurs. So like if you need more than 8 gigabit, what is it, gigabyte? It's a big one. It's a big, not a little b. So you need more than 8 gigabytes of memory. What happens? Well, you start to go into your storage, right? You use a paging file that is stored in storage. So that's where it becomes a problem. Like if you don't properly allocate your memory with your guest OS, then you're going to start doing a lot of thrashing in your storage, which you don't want to do.
I have about 16, I don't know speed matters, but mine's, I have 16 gigs.
That's what, yeah, and I can show you right here and again, this is a beefy one. This is a beefy pfSense instance. Actually, I have it over here on this one. Because there is a physical box back there that runs pfSense on it, but whatever. So you can see that, yep, right now, 89 megahertz, it's only 2 gigabyte, of memory that I'm using. And this, you can see I'm probably doing a lot of thrashing. Well, is that because I need to bump up the memory? I would anticipate, yes, that is the case. So I should be looking at this and knowing that I need to do something with it. But I'm not. But at any rate, my point is that this is, this thing does everything in the lab. So this is everything, all the computers that sit in the lab, including virtual machines. So this thing does work pretty hard. When you do your pfSense install, you can get away with 512 megabytes, right? Or really 256. So yeah, you can, and that will be plenty. 512 will be way plenty.
I mean, I can just use whatever. Some of them have active, doing class, like, you can just put it on my computer and just, and it was close. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
No, yeah, don't do that for PFSense because keep in mind if you want to do that, if you want to host everything on your own system, you can do the whole lab, the whole class, you can do it on one computer with only eight gigabytes of memory. So you can do everything in this class on one computer sitting in the lab. The only problem is it becomes very confusing on what is what, and that's where, like I'm saying, you need an illustration here because you have all these virtual machines running, and then you have client computers, you have server computers, and they're all on the same system. So if you don't set up your networking right, what you'll have happen is you'll have these things happen. You'll have where R4, even though it has a connection to here, well, it'll see this over here and connect directly. I can isolate all that. I can walk you through all that, but again, it's a lot of layers of complexity. So what I've always recommended students do is have like R4 because R4 is kind of like on its own. Have R4 and your virtual machine sit on another physical computer in the lab. It helps It helps with some issues that you don't have to concern yourself with if you physically isolate them. That's the only real problem there. But again, like I said, 9 times out of 10, I can help you immediately with any problems, and then in some cases, I might need a little time to look at it. Cool. All right. Let's see. Now I said 3:45 to 4:45. I was like, you know what? An hour. We might need all that time. We may not. For the week. I'm just really wondering about the weather because I have something going on tonight, so I can't like really hang out very late. But again, I just wanted to talk about the class, make sure we're aware of what it's at. This stuff, this routing stuff, and all this. This is again later in the course. I don't even have yet these nice little videos here for you, right? I don't even have that stuff set up. So you can't even really look at the content of the course. So what are you going to be doing? Well, over the weekend, think about how you want to set up your stuff and then kind of just talk to me and we'll figure it out. Yeah, and again, it is 4 chapters. That it's like 300 pages or something, 400 pages. So it's a lot of content. And that's where it's like, honestly, I've talked with Professor Wedge about that book specifically, and that it should really be updated in that because it reads more of like a technical reference than it does like an actual like textbook that you should be using and learning about networking from. Yeah, I taught other networking classes before, and I like to use stuff that's just a little bit easier to digest. Uh, well, I kind of went through and pulled out the important stuff, but a good a good book on networking, if you really want to know, is Beasley Networking. What is this one? Beasley textbook. Yeah, that's it. It'll be kind of hard to match up chapters, though. Come on, Beasley. Yeah, Networking Essentials. I feel like it's a good book. Um, the edition, I think it's up to 7 on there. Ugh. But the idea there is that it prepares you for the Network Plus exam. I know there was a newer version. Doesn't look like it has very good ratings, but I don't know if that's an older version. Yeah, so I mean, there are tons of books. Yeah, this is a different version. Yeah, this is published in 2012. Okay, so, come on, dude. I'm doing everything over wireless right now, and it's just a little too much. Okay, so Networking. Mm. Wondering if hmm. Yeah, I think this is the newest one, but it looks like that's the fourth edition. Um, but yeah, so this is in my opinion, this is a really good book, especially if you want to prepare for the Network Plus exam. I don't think that's an exam you can use, however, for the DFS degree or the Cbfn degree. But it is a nice cert to have because it's vendor neutral. Um, yeah. So, but anyway, yeah, I would recommend this book. I am, and you can see that 17 ratings. Well, they can't be wrong, right? 17 of these people. But that's a good book. Chapter 7 there gets a little heavy into the uh, hardware components like router, switch, bridge, and it really, how you configure from like a little bit what you were talking about earlier about like, hey, how do I interface with these switches and routers and stuff? Well, you use you connect through like a rollover cable console, you plug in the back, or some of them are just like web console only. But at any rate, the point is that you have some way to interface with the device. That chapter 7 talks about that, and what's the commands, the difference between the different images that exist on the physical switch. Anyway, the point is that I mean I don't want to say if you want to ask any questions at all, but yeah, that's unfortunately why I'm teaching this class because I got a pretty good solid knowledge on this stuff and the cool stuff, which is the virtualization business too. Okay, cool. Um, all right. Well, I can't really think of anything more. Like I said, more to come. I will try and work on getting. I'll write myself a note now to do the videos, get them up there at least for the first module, so that way you can look at them. Videos, and I'll at least get mod one up there. Well, and yeah, and I mean, if you want, and again, we'll see how things go and what Wedge says, but there's definitely switches in our lab that are running that you can go look at and play around with, um, or actually he has switches in the back, but those switches, there's different levels of switches, right? You have like managed switches, and then you have like unmanaged switches, and then you kind of have this like half-ass in between of managed and unmanaged. Well, I don't want to say, unfortunately, those new switches he's got is that halfway in between, but they are, so you don't get like the high level like management capabilities because those switches are like several $100s versus these, which are like, halfway between several $100s and $50. So they're kind of in between there. They have some capability, but they don't really have everything. Whereas, right, with PF Sense, you have everything. Everything's there. It's enterprise level management of what a router would do, free, right? It's open source. So that's why I like to use it. Now, granted, some of it is like, because you can't have proprietary, like authentication systems in place, like TACACS, for your PF Sense, because that's like Cisco, proprietary. But, there's equivalencies there. At any rate, we can talk about this stuff as we go. Let me get those resources up there. I think we're in pretty good shape. I'll get that up there this weekend. You guys can start, posting on this discussion forum after you work through this. This will be due on September 9th, which would be in you have the whole next week, and then the week after that, the whole next week, and then like the following. Oh, I gotta look at the dates. Maybe I screwed up here. No, I thought I went through and fixed all this stuff. Well, Monday. So everything will be on Monday. Yeah, so Monday, September 7th. So you have like really 2 weeks. So you have that, you have all next week. So really you have one full week plus a weekend to do it. So that's it. That's what we'll be working on next week. And that's pretty much it. So cool. I will do this thing and sign off here. Make sure